dude, we've got one hell of a 964 turbo here, to say the very least.
It's not a bad one.
No, it's a gorgeous one. And especially because I know the amount of work that you've put into it.
Indeed.
But let's take it back a step and go. Yeah, let's ask you why did you want to go with a 964 turbo? What was the what was the reason?
I think it's the same reason that most people would say. Mm-hmm. Bad Boys.
Yeah.
So I was in my mid-20s when Bad Boys came out.
Yeah.
And that iconic scene, you know, you could say the scene right at the beginning when he pulls up, or it's the iconic scene right at the end when they're racing the Cobra. This car was the pin-up car. Yeah. It's what everyone wanted, and it's what everyone lusted for, including me. And it's something I couldn't afford in my 20s, way out of my budget. Yeah. But, you know, the Porsche journey for me started a bit earlier than the 964 Turbo, but this, for me, was always the pinnacle.
Pinnacle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, it was an absolutely iconic scene. And lo and behold, you found yourself a black one as well. So did it have to be black?
I would have preferred black, and I would have preferred a 3.6. Mm-hmm. This is a 3.3 turbo, as you know. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, a 3.6 actually did cross my path, but I just didn't have the kahunas because the number they wanted was a strong number. Yeah. And I just wasn't prepared to throw finance and stuff at what I thought was a classic car because I didn't know where the world was going. And this was, you know, only maybe a year before I bought this one.
Right.
And when I jumped into this one, it was a no-brainer because of the price, and it was less than half of what the 964 Turbo.
So it really goes to show the price difference between the two.
Way less. Yeah. But is it less than half of the car? Yeah. No friggin' way. It's as good as, if not better, because I can use this. Whereas with the 3.6, the way those cars are now, they're trailer queens. Yeah. How often do you see one?
No, it's true. It's true. I was lucky enough to have a 3.6 for quite a while, and it was a wonderful car. I think I sold it just to the point where I felt comfortable with it. Like, I drove that car a lot. I drove that car to Switzerland, Italy, France, all over the place, and it was a wonderful car. It was a great car. So tell me how you found this one then.
So this one was with Ashgood Porsche.
Was it? Okay, yeah.
And they're only down the road from where my base is.
They're lovely guys, those guys.
Great guys.
Who did you deal with there?
I deal with Mike.
Mike, okay, yeah.
This popped up, and it was sensibly priced. Mm-hmm. And what initially caught me was the fact that it looked like a 3.6, because obviously speed lines, big reds. But when I delved in deeper, it was a 3.3, but it was a tired 3.3. And it was a 3.3 that had been used as intended. Nice. Previous owners had taken it to Europe, they'd done Alps, they'd done tours, really driven it hard. And there were two options. Either to buy it as a retail price point, which would mean that he'd have to do a few bits and the price would be here. Or it was like, Raj, I'm going to straight off with you. If you want it as a trade price, this is the price, but it's a trade price, there's no warranty, there are a few issues. And I said, okay, I'll take it at the trade price, because I'm not scared of jumping into a project. And this would have been my third project at that point.
And you'd had 964s before, so you kind of knew a little bit about what you're getting yourself into, I guess.
We say that, but we always know from experience that no two cars are the same. Yeah, sure. They don't follow the same journey, and this didn't follow the same journey as the original, my grey 964 that I restored 10 years ago. But the price that they wanted, and Mike, very good relationship with Mike. It's like, you know what, this is a no-brainer. But even then, I still did an inspection. I carried out, there's a company called Porsche Inspections. I rang them, they popped down to Mike's place, and they prepared a 25-page dossier on the car. And that covered everything from, stone chips to, tire wear, but more importantly, the engine, the bodywork, what they could see without obviously getting into the engine and so on. So I knew what I was getting into, and at least then I could say, okay, I know this is what's going to cost for the bodywork, and this is what's going to cost for the engine work. Obviously, it didn't cost that. But
you went in with your eyes relatively open.
On their say, so I said, right, let's do the deal.
I can't stress that enough. I think it's probably the smartest money anyone will spend is on a pre-purchase inspection, isn't it? Where it's what is it, 125 quid, 150
It's
quid?
a bit more than that now because of the level they go
Yeah.
into. And, to provide a 25-page dossier, they're
Yeah,
there for...
that's a good point,
It's
actually.
one
Okay.
guy, he's there for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
I think from memory it's about £300. They
Yeah.
probably charge a little bit more. But that dossier is with me now, although the car's changed substantially
Sure.
since then. It goes to show what it was like and what it is like.
But I think that's the best initial money that you can spend on a car is that
100%.
300 quid, even at 300 quid. That's, to me, that sounds like a really good value for going in with your eyes wide open.
Correct.
And also, I guess it also serves as maybe as a bit of a bargaining chip. You can say, oh, well, they found this in the inspection, and hopefully it becomes a point that you can haggle over.
They did find a few bits in the inspection, and there was a bit of bargaining backwards and forwards, but I knew there wasn't that much meat on the bone for Mike because he'd taken it as a Part X.
Yeah.
And the way they work is they don't like to sit on their stock. There's other dealers
Yeah.
who will sit on their stock. Maybe they'll cherry pick what they get, and they'll want a nice margin. Mike's not that. He's very honest.
Yeah.
And I knew there was a bit of wiggle room, but not a lot.
Yeah.
And I used that to my advantage.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, I've got to say that every time I see Ashgood come up with cars for sale on Instagram or wherever, the price point always seems very very reasonable, very fair, and
100%.
it's true that you do see that their stock changes. I have a lot, and he's a fan of the 3.6 because he's got that beautiful flat nose 3.6 turbo.
I think he sold that.
Has he?
I
never
could be
thought he
mistaken,
would.
but I have a funny feeling that's sold. And for me, that's just one of the pinnacle.
Yeah.
3.6 flat nose, Turbo S, in
Yeah.
yellow.
Yeah.
It's
the
right-hand
pop-up
drive as well,
headlights.
isn't it?
I think it is. I can't remember.
so rare.
I should remember. We had it here at Megaphonics last year.
I think he has sold it.
Yeah, no, that is a gorgeous, gorgeous car. No, I totally get the appeal. I mean, there's something very special about these. Certainly that silver screen moment is something that's really
And
going
the
to
weirdest thing is,
cement it.
we started this episode, you asked me why this car, and I said Bad Boys. I bought this car in January 2020. The day I picked it up, that Friday, Bad Boys 3 was released. And weirdest thing, so I picked it up knowing Bad Boys 3 was going to be released.
Yeah.
And this is pre-COVID, 2 months before COVID, and myself and my wife went to cinema and we watched Bad Boys in this.
Brilliant.
And that for me was like, I've got to do this.
Yeah.
I've got to do
Well,
this.
you've got to. I mean, like if it's something that's been with you since something that you've wanted, that you've wanted for so long, and
Sure.
something, that's a pretty special moment. It's a real halo car.
100%.
So, I'm going to ask you a stupid question, but this is clearly a car you're never going to sell, right?
I would sell it.
Would you?
I would
Okay.
sell it
Right.
because the kid in me still lusts for a 3.6. And
Interesting.
hindsight's a great thing.
Yeah.
I should have bought the one that was offered
Yeah.
because prices have moved since then, but so is the price of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would only sell this if I got a 3.6.
Yeah.
And then it'd be like, well, I don't need two. That's just greedy, isn't it?
Yeah, true. yeah, fair enough. So you would never be without a 964 turbo is what we're getting at.
No, for me, this and probably the 993 Turbo are the
Keepers.
best Porsches ever made, and they're keepers.
No, I've got to say, I sold my 3.6 and I regret it, really. What's called like, I don't regret selling most cars because for me, I don't really get attached to things. I get attached to the memories they allow me to make. So the road trips, the this, that, and the other. And I had a hell of a lot of experiences with that car, having driven it all over the place. But it is one of the very few cars where actually I do miss it. So it's definitely an itch that I would like to scratch again at some point or another.
Yeah.
So I'll have to live vicariously through you in the meantime.
That's fine. No
Enjoy
problem.
your car, and when that day comes where you find the 3.6, then do keep me posted because I'd love to come on the journey with you, even if it's over WhatsApp.
No problem.
With some pictures. Okay, cool. Right, let's talk about what you've done to it.
Right.
Shall we start with what's glaring at us, which is the bodywork?
Okay, so when I bought the car, it was peppered.
Was it?
Absolutely peppered. The front end, the black bonnet, there were probably more stone chips than actual black paint. It is in a bad way.
Right, okay.
The front bumper was very wavy. The side skirts and the shark fins, they were destroyed. So I knew what I was getting into. And I don't think it actually ever been painted in its life. So
Interesting, that's great.
yeah, so in that sense, I was like, okay, I know what I'm getting into, so it's going to have to, take it back to bare metal. So I knew roughly in my head what that number would cost, and I already knew who I was going to use.
So who were you going to use, Greg? Raj?
Greg at Southern Bodies. For me, he's one of the best in the industry. The way he can just change the whole look of a car with his wrist, and the way he just drops the paint is absolutely amazing. Yeah. And I'd already used him a couple of times prior to jumping into this. Yeah. So I knew what I was going to get. You just know the end result is going to be amazing. Yeah. It's going to be second to none. I would probably say he's one of the best in the country. He's the best that I've ever used and will ever use, and he is my go-to guy. And I've sent a lot of business his way, because you know what you're going to get. And life is all about that. You learn from experiences and relationships. And when you know you've had a great experience, you're only going to recommend that person. Sure. And people ask me, and I'll say, yeah, this is the guy, but there's a few factors that you need to understand with Greg. He's not cheap, because he's one of the best, and don't rush him. Yeah. So if you want it done because you want to take it to a festival speed or whatever it is, he won't take the car, because he won't work
to a deadline.
Yeah, to a deadline. He will get the car done, but it'll be done properly, and he's a perfectionist, and he is. Yeah. But that's also a little bit of a drawback as well, because when I took the car to him, he was like, okay, look, we've got a few issues here, the bonnet and the stone chips and so on we can resolve, but your front bumper's perished. I could spend X amount of man hours trying to repair it, but it's never going to be the same as a new bumper. Sure. So in the end, it was like, okay, look, let's do it properly. We're going to do it once. So I need you to replace this, this, and this. So it's new front bumper, new rear bumper, all the plastic, so all the side skirts, the shark fins.
Really? Wow. All of those needed replacing?
All of it, because they're shot. I bought the car with 107,000 miles. That's amazing. So that's 107,000 miles of abuse this car had.
And that was just purely from stone chips and so on, do you think?
Yeah. Just been used, that's no amazing. PPF, just used. Yeah. I think that's a testament to the previous owners, that they actually used the car as intended. So I had to get new bumpers, and when he stripped back the car, and obviously you can't see this until you start stripping it back. When the front wings came off, there were rust buckets.
Okay, so before we get to that, with the front bumpers and the sills and everything, were you able to get everything from Porsche, or did you start using breakers jods as well? Or?
No, everything from Porsche. So I've got a very good relationship with Porsche Reading.
Yeah.
And it was a list that I received from Greg, which I just forwarded to Reading. Yeah. They look after me on price. Yeah. And just ordered everything. So
and just out of curiosity, who looks after you?
I don't want to say on camera. I don't want him inundated with emails. Okay. So it's a good relationship that I have, and I'd rather keep that relationship. So,
no, I use Porsche Reading as well, and the guy I use there is a guy called Kelvin, and he's just wonderfully helpful and very knowledgeable. And we've got a good.
Could be the same person.
Okay. I'm not going to press you. Okay, wonderful. So, I mean, what's lovely about these cars and what's lovely about Porsche actually is that we're very lucky to be into this marque, because there are so many marques out there of this kind of age and older where the parts just aren't available.
Correct. And if they are available, they are absolutely ridiculous in terms of price, or you have to get them from the States. Yeah. At least with Porsche, Porsche Reading can more or less get everything. Yeah. There are some items which tend to be out of stock for a long period of time, but there are other guys out there who can get you a good copy part. I didn't want any copy parts on this, and from my experience, copy parts either tend to fail, they just don't fit correctly as good as the OEM part. And as you know with Porsche, they tend to, if a part needs to be improved over a period of time, they will improve it.
No, I get that. I totally get that. I think that, it's true to say that if you can go, with original parts where you can, it's always going to be better, really, overall, for sure. I mean, there are some great aftermarket parts out there and suppliers, but for something that's going to be an original part, it's always going to be better in terms of fitment and so on. Okay, so we were just delving into the wings. So I'm guessing that the wings came off and you found the rust in the usual places, because it tends to be all around here, isn't it, on 964s?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And to the point where Greg was like, I can't really reuse these wings, because when he showed me the wings off the car, they were so bad that he's touching the wing, and the rust was so bad that the wing was just falling apart. And he said, I can repair this, don't get me wrong, everything's repairable, but it's the labour, it's the man hours. We're better off with new wings, and you've still got these wings which you can put on eBay or move on.
And it can become a false economy if you start pouring in so much money into the original wings. Yeah, yeah.
So in the end, it's 2 new wings, and you can imagine they weren't cheap.
And I think this goes back to, going back to Gray, one of the things that stand out to me, but it's just basic common sense, is that he was saying, listen, if somebody comes to me and they say, I'd like you to do the job in this way, in a way that he believes is slightly compromised, he just won't do it.
He won't do it.
And I think that, it's a testament to him, because from his standpoint, he wants all the cars going out there that have got his name to be absolutely perfect and absolutely stunning. So
yeah, it's not like he's got
to do it his way.
A factory where they churn out cars, cars coming in and out weekly.
Yeah.
They are very, I wouldn't say selective, but to a degree they are selective.
Yeah.
But it's his name on it.
Exactly.
It's his name on the tin, and he wants to ensure that it follows a certain criteria, and the car lasts, because we all know that you could do something cheap, quick fix, 2-3 years down the road. It's going to come back.
That's a false economy.
The rest is going to come back. So
it is, and body shops that do that, they end up with customers coming back which are pissed off and angry and so on and so forth, and it's just not good for business. Yeah. So it's just simple common sense when it comes to running a good business, is to make sure you deliver a quality product.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So new wing.
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay. Right. So your order bill from Reading, must have been pretty hefty.
3-page invoice.
Fuck.
Because and my eyes did pop when I saw the number. So new wings, all the new plastics, all the new lights, front lights.
New lights as well?
New lights.
So why is that?
Well, the car was going to look so fresh.
Okay.
And I was going to use the original 30-year-old lights, which were a little bit tired, discoloured. Yeah. So I thought...
So not just the lenses, the whole fucking unit?
The whole unit.
Jeez.
The whole unit. New lights.
Okay.
New indicators.
Yeah. That makes sense. New rubbers everywhere. I'm guessing.
Seals, gaskets. All the gaskets and the seals around the glass. Yeah. So it was doors off, glass out, sunroof seals. It was a massive build. But then you start looking at all the bolts and all the perishables.
All the fittings and fixtures and brackets and all the things that hold all the bumpers on and all the rest of it.
They've rusted away.
Yeah.
Or they're corroded, and you don't want to use corroded bolts on fresh products. So there was a lot of parts replaced.
Yeah. No, for sure. Jeez. And the other thing also is I think rubbers are really important. Sometimes people will decide, what's called actually the original rubbers are all right and so on. And actually, I think it's almost a bit of a shame when you go to that extent with the car to get it just right, and you see that some of the rubbers, especially on Porsches, they tend to go short. And the window, this is the one that goes short on the 964 especially. Well, I think on most of the G.
They do over time. They just perish.
they always. You end up with like almost a centimeter.
Correct.
Of them shrinking.
And that's where the water leaks in through that into the door card.
Again, it's a false economy. And it's that final finishing detail on a restoration, all the right rubbers, getting that just right,
And even down to, we were talking about rust earlier on, when the side skirts were removed, there was so much rust here in the bottom of the sills. And that needed all taking back, so that was welded. Because I'm not going to replace, obviously, the whole of the quarter panels.
Sure.
There's a lot of welding work around the scuttle panel, there's some welding work around there. So I was into it, and it's like, well, the car's stripped. I'm only going to do it once. Obviously, some of the stuff that you can't see, you've got to have an account. It's like when you're doing a house project. There's going to be some issues somewhere along the road. Just have a contingency. And I knew that in my head, and it was like, okay, let's do it. You can do it once, do it right.
It's a daunting thing for people to hear who haven't necessarily been down this road. So is there any advice that you would give to someone, what's called having been through the process, you did all the right things with the pre-purchase inspection and everything, you went in there with your eyes wide open, looking back on it, what's called, were you happy with the decision that you made, that this was definitely the right car?
100%.
Yeah.
Because the initial price that I paid.
Yeah, okay.
So because it was so cheap, the car deserved to be finished like this.
Yeah.
If I'd paid market value, then it would be really painful to pay that level of money to get it to look right. So yes, most definitely I never thought twice.
And did you have, when you first saw the car, did you have an idea of the extent of the amount of rust that you were going to have to deal with?
No. Because you can't see it.
The thing is there's never a way to really be able to tell, is there?
No, and to answer your question that you asked, if somebody was going to go into something, maybe just like a 964, and just jump in, be prepared, because if the car does look tired on the outside, it's going to be as tired, if not more tired, on the inside and underneath.
True.
You know, so just be prepared, and nothing is cheap because these cars aren't cheap. A standard 964 isn't cheap.
Yeah.
And those paint jobs of 10, 15 years ago where you can get paint jobs done for $3,000, those days are long gone.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, 15, 20K is where you need to be for a good quality paint job, and that's without taking into account all the ancillaries and the perishables and so on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, for sure. Interesting. And I see here you've PPF'd a fair chunk of the car. Is that the front end?
So just the front end and the side skirts, I PPF'd. So as soon as the car was done, so I bought the car in January 2020, and Greg took it in February 21.
Okay.
So
pretty quickly.
Yeah, pretty quickly. Although we were in COVID, I did manage to use it a little bit in COVID because my business was open, so I was allowed to go to work. So it was a great opportunity. So I got an idea of what the car was like, both externally and engine-wise. But yeah, the front end's been PPF just to protect it.
Okay. Right, let's talk about the oily bits now. So let's talk about suspension first, because when the car was rolling in here, it looked super impressive.
Thank you.
And certainly more impressive than it does in stock, because the ride height's lower and you've really, really filled out the arches. So what have you done to achieve that?
So the previous owner, I've got to thank him for this. He spent a lot of money on the car before I jumped into it.
Was it a guy called Lee?
Lee was probably the third previous owner.
Okay.
So in between Lee, there's been a couple of other guys who I know. Okay. I didn't know until I went to see the car, and I saw their names in the paperwork. And the previous owner bought Bilstein PSS 10s.
Nice.
So that's what it's sitting on.
Yeah, yeah.
We fettled with it a little bit and just got the ride height dialed into what I like.
Yeah.
It's not too low where it crashes and bangs.
No.
Speed humps is fine. And it's a little bit harsh. It's a firm ride, but I'm used to that with some of the stuff that I drive, so I don't mind that.
And is that because the settings on the system could be loosened up a bit more,
Correct,
do you think?
Yeah.
And if you loosened up a bit more, do you think it'd be problematic, or do you think it'd be all right?
I think it'd be a little bit too soft for me.
Yeah.
I'd like to drive it hard.
Yeah.
And I think for that, the firm ride is probably better. It's not so great now being in the UK, considering what the road just looks like, you know, with the potholes and so on.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and I'd like to enjoy the car.
The thing is also like with these cars, with these older cars, especially with the 3.3 engine, when the boost comes in, it is a bit of a full whack. So actually having the car a little bit stiffer, I think helps settle it. Otherwise, there's a lot more movement when it suddenly squats, and then suddenly your traction isn't the same as it would be. So stiffening it up a little bit, I think over stand is probably a good thing.
I'm smiling because you mentioned the word boost, because that's the thing with these cars.
Yeah.
As soon as the boost kicks in, you cannot but help yourself from smiling. It literally is a grin from ear to ear.
Do you know, I think manufacturers spend so much time, and understandably, trying to make cars as linear as possible in terms of their power delivery. So all these hybrid turbo systems, sequential turbos,
Correct.
You know, in the middle of the V, the hot spot V kind of turbos, things. But there is something to be said for lag, and lag is just such an exciting, awesome way to deliver power. And I think it is one of the defining features of like these early turbos.
Lag is an 80s and 90s word, isn't it? It doesn't exist in the noughties.
No, I guess not. No, it's true. No, I love the delivery of a 3.3 turbo. That's a 3.3, obviously, and it's, to me that engine is a wonderful thing. It's really representative, I think, of boost lag, of that
Correct,
era of power delivery.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So PSS 10s, anything with anti-roll bars?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So I think Lee is the one who bought the PSS 10s.
Okay.
And at that time, he's the one who went out and bought the speed lines.
Nice.
Although they're not genuine speed lines.
Okay.
And I only
That's
found that.
interesting.
Yeah, I only found that out through our friend Ellie when he refurbished them.
Because the centers look pretty spot on to me.
So from what I understand, Ellie said the number of bolts gives you an indication if they're genuine speed lines or not. And these have 2 more bolts or 3 more bolts on the back.
I tell you what, they also look slightly different. I don't think the original bolts are this shiny. I think they're a little bit more of a matte.
Well, the bolts have been changed.
Yeah. Right, okay, yeah.
So because the wheels were refurbished by Ellie in 2021, and he took them back because the wheels had seen better days.
Sure.
Obviously used hard, so there's lack of peel and so on. So the wheels were completely stripped back, refreshed, refurbished, new bolts, and we had the speed line etched into the actual side.
I've got to say, Ellie's got to be the best person in the business, certainly that I've come across when it comes to refurbishing wheels.
I think we're so lucky to have people like Greg and Ellie who know what they're doing, and they are the best in the business for a reason.
So those of you who are watching, you'll know a little bit more about Greg because he was on a previous episode of Niners Unplugged. So I won't go into too much detail with him. Certainly his video, and he speaks for itself in terms of the quality of the work, and we've talked about him quite extensively. But Ellie is a company called Voodoo Motorsport, for those of you who are looking, and basically they specialize in many different things, but really three-piece wheels is something that he's very well known for, I would say.
Very good.
He does F40 wheels for DK Engineering, and does all sorts of bits and pieces, and the polishing, the bolts, and it's a real custom experience because you can go with like stainless dishes or aluminium dishes, titanium bolts, stainless gold-plated bolts.
If you want, yes.
If you wanted to, and I believe he's also got some ceramic polishing equipment as well, which is quite cool, where he does some serious polishing on the wheels. So, yeah, he certainly has done a great job on your wheels for sure. They look absolutely brilliant.
They've now seen a few thousand miles, and if anything now, they probably need another coat of ceramic polish because I think sometimes water does stain on them. I have actually managed to source a set of speed lines, so I've got a brand new set of speed lines at work.
Nice.
But I don't think I'll put them on the car because there's no point. These do the job. And
they do. I mean, they're stunning, and I mean, unless you're an anorak, and at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with aftermarket speed lines. I've got aftermarket speed lines on my anniversary over here.
Right. Yes.
These were also built by Ellie. And this kind of maybe shows you the spectrum of what Ellie can do, because on here we've gone with a chromated paint and a stainless steel dish, which means that what's it called, for road use and for the amount that I drive this car, they always stay in perfect condition.
They look stunning.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay, cool. I see you've got some wheel spaces on here as well, so there's just a good amount. It's not overbearing, and it's just, it's good. It's really smart.
Well, one thing I remembered about the paint, which I recall a number that Greg said to me, not a money number, 300 hours.
300 hours?
That's how much labor he put into this car.
Fair enough. Yeah, it speaks for itself. I mean, the thing with his work as well is it's so flat. I'm looking down the side of the door, and it's just flat as a pancake. It really does look stunning. Yeah. Okay, anything gearbox-wise?
No, standard 5-speed gearbox, which pulls well. Clutch is a little bit heavy, but you're probably fully aware of that.
Yeah.
And the gearbox is probably a little bit clunky, but it fits the era of the car.
So it's never been rebuilt as it was. Yeah.
No, as it was.
Brilliant.
From what I can see, there's no invoices in the history file. There's like when I bought the car from Ashgood, there's literally 2 box files of history. I went through it all, and there's a lot of invoices there which show obviously what previous owners have done, but nothing to do with the gearbox. Yeah,
the G50 seems to be a bomb-proof gearbox, whereas things like 915s tend to wear over misuse, and they can be quite, what's the word I'm looking for? You need a lot of, they're quite intricate to rebuild. 964 gearboxes, G50s, onwards into the 964 seem to be really quite bulletproof.
Correct, yeah. Agree with you.
Okay, nice. Okay, and can we flip the engine lid? Do you mind
your
if I
side.
Yeah. I'll lift that up. Windscreen wiper deletes?
Previous owner. It's not an RS screen because it's obviously got the heated section, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, very tidy engine bay, but that's because it's just been rebuilt.
Yes. Yeah. And it was the guys down...
Northway.
It was Northway, so it was Ray. Okay, wonderful.
Ray and Paul. So Paul's the one who actually worked on this car. And one of the reasons why I managed to get the car a little bit cheaper than what market value would be was that there was, and the Porsche inspections report showed this, there was a little bit of a sort of, I wouldn't say a tapping noise, but a little bit of a noise coming from the engine. And it was only on tick over initially when you start the car. So it's a little bit of a, how can I describe it? Probably not even tapping. Very, very slight noise. You could hear it, and then as soon as the engine warmed up, it would go. And that we diagnosed, well, Northway Porsche diagnosed in 2021 as a cylinder head.
Interesting.
So whoever had fitted the exhaust, so it's got car graphic exhaust, whoever had fitted that had done a bit of a bodge job.
Okay.
And one of the cylinder heads, the stud was cracked and it was just leaking air.
The head studs.
Yeah, head studs. That was cracked. So I had that replaced in 2021.
Which is quite a common thing, the head studs to go on these. So did you go with like ARP ones? Do you remember?
So that was in 2021, and since then
it's been fully
I've
rebuilt.
used the car,
Yeah.
and it was a little bit smoky, and over the last 3 years it's become even smokier on startup. And when you're giving it some beans, they throw out a puff of smoke, and I felt like it was down on power. So in the end I gave it to Northway just this year. In fact, it's still running in. So by the time I get back today to run in, so I'm going to drop it back to them. They used a different running in oil.
Yes.
Which I wasn't aware of. So
What do you know what it is?
I don't know. So Paul was mentioning it's slightly thicker than the normal oil they would use.
Because I think for these, what do they recommend? Is it a 15W or a 10W?
I think 15W.
15W. So what were they running, like a 20W or something?
I have no idea. But he did mention it's a slightly different oil, so I've got to take it back to him.
So 15.
They'll replace the oil and just make sure everything is fine. So now it's had a complete engine rebuild, which is it's not what I wanted. I thought just the top end. But once he'd taken the engine out, it was like, look, we're here now.
In for a penny.
Let's just do the whole thing. I'll look after you on price.
Especially after the mileage and the amount of effort you put into the car. I mean, you know.
And the great thing with this engine is it's now a solid engine, but the car's had a fair amount of modifications by previous owners. Which maybe has helped to deteriorate the engine to where it got to. But now, with everything that I've done and those modifications, I can really enjoy this car and know that actually it probably lasts another 100,000 miles, if not more, because some of the parts that they've used are better than the parts that were in the car originally. It's got a bigger turbo.
Do you know what the turbo is?
I think it's a K27, triple K.
K27.
Yes,
Okay,
it's
nice.
a bigger turbo,
Yeah.
upgraded wastegate, car graphic exhaust.
Car graphic exhaust sounds awesome. I had one on my system and it was just no drone, just beautiful. Perfect.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly that. And with the upgraded wastegate, the boost kicks in slightly lower down the rev range. So typically I think these boost are around 3.5, 36. At 32 you could start hearing it, and at 33 you're in full drama mode.
Yeah, nice.
And it's just massive, as I said earlier, massive smile on your face. So,
sorry.
So, and Northway, Paul at Northway, he's driven this car quite a lot. And he actually said to me that I don't know why you'd want a 3.6 turbo, because this probably pulls better than a 3.6 because of the modifications.
Interesting.
And that's quite nice to know. You know, stock-wise, these are about 320 brake, I think. This would probably be nearer 360, 370, 380. I'd love to get it on a rolling road at some point. And see
Interesting. Yeah, because the 3.6 turbo was around those figures already anyway.
360, 350, 360.
Okay, wonderful. And was there any other modifications that were made to support the turbo?
Not that I'm aware of.
So compression stayed exactly the same?
Correct.
Okay. And do you know how much boost it's developing now?
No idea.
No idea. No. Okay, cool. And I see you've got a different intake. You've got a big cone air filter. That's got to make some good induction noise.
That does. And again, that was done by the previous owner. So yeah, that does help as well.
Nice.
It does make a lovely throaty noise.
And the cams are the same?
Cams are the same.
Cams are the same. And when you open it up and Ray did the work, and Northway did the work, was there much that needed doing in terms of like sealing, what do you call them? In terms of pistons, cylinders, rings?
It's all new pistons.
All new pistons?
All new pistons.
So everything needed replacing?
Yeah, all new pistons, all new gaskets, all new head studs, ARP Conrod bolts. He went through it all. Even the cylinder heads, they were sent away, machined, put back in. So it is as good, if not better than new. And I know now this will just carry on going forever.
New valve guides and all the rest of it. Really cool. Okay, awesome. Really cool. Okay, and I see you've got a nice little detail there with the fan all in black.
Yes, you noticed that. I had Northway do that for me because the fan was a little bit tired, and I thought, well, just paint it the same colour as the body.
Yeah.
You know, there's not much to see in a turbo's engine bay, but at least it does look a little bit better.
No, that's lovely. It looks
even
gorgeous.
the previous owner had replaced the tinware, so the tinware didn't need replacing, so it's just been powder coated and refreshed.
I like the detail of the engine badge in silver.
Yeah,
it just plays nicely on the speed lines really, and the exhaust tips, and lovely. Okay, and was this the modification you made, 993?
No.
Third brake light?
On there?
Yeah.
previous
It's
owner.
nice, because for 964s, like, well, for old 911s, we're so low to the ground and small compared to modern cars, but actually having that extra bit of visibility for people to see when you're braking makes a big difference, yeah.
So yeah, I've got to credit the previous owners. They spent some money on this, and it means that there's some bits that I haven't had to replace. Obviously, the other bits, as we mentioned, I have. But.
Okay, let's have a little look inside, if that's all right.
Yes.
Oh, and just before we go inside, actually, I see you're running a set of our favorite tires, Michelin Pilot Sports.
Yes, and obviously big reds, as you can see. So the big reds, the pads are really good. The brakes, again, previous owner. And that's going back to what I said earlier. When I saw this pop up at Ashford Porsche, in my eyes, I thought it was a 3.6 turbo. Because all the telltale signs are there, speed lines, big reds.
Yeah.
So only when you get around the back, it doesn't say turbo 3.6.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, okay, I'm not trying to show that it's a 3.6, but it's got some of the best bits of the 3.6 on this car.
Sure. Yeah. No, gorgeous. And how do you find the Michelins?
Fantastic. Even in the wet.
It's what I keep hearing time and time again, and I'm fully in agreement with you. There was someone that came onto the show with a Michelin Cup 2s on his daily driver, which I thought was a little bit strong when you consider that actually the difference in between the Michelin Pilot Sport 4s, I think we're on the 5s now, are we, or something, and the Cup 2 is so marginal on the road. It's only really that you see it on the street. And the difference is these are actually seriously impressive in the wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never lost this car, touch wood.
Yeah.
And I have driven it hard. I said I've driven it in the wet. But to be fair, you've got to be pretty unstupid to do that. You know, if you're going to give it full send round a roundabout, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Right, let's step inside, have a look.
Sure.
What I'm going to do, if that's all right, is just have a seat in your seat. Is that all right?
Go for it.
Yeah. Oh, it all feels really nice and familiar, really. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, so we've got, it's a grey interior.
Correct.
Really smart. What have you done?
So when I bought the car, it came with these RS style door cards, which are fine. So again, probably to reduce weight and so on, which I've kept. I have got a set of stock door cards if I ever need to replace them, but I actually quite like the way these sit. Seating wise, they're the seats that were in the car. The colour of the interior I don't think has been changed. I do feel that at some point I probably just need to maybe dye the seats. The piping is a little bit damaged on the driver bolster.
Standard.
It's showing its wear. But other than that, the interior isn't that tired. So all I've really done is what I do, which is audio. So I've done the audio upgrade.
Yeah. So we'll get to that in a second because this is going to be a little part of the video for sure. There's going to be lots to talk about there, and I'm excited to talk to you about that for sure. But the grey is lovely. I think it just lifts it a little bit more than black. It makes it a little bit less oppressive, a little bit more airy. Yeah.
Black on black is obviously I would say the pinnacle because of Bad Boys, but I think that you're right. The grey just adds a bit of contrast inside. It works well.
Nice, really nice. And then here we've got our an RS steering wheel.
RS steering wheel.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the fact
really
that my go-to steering wheel, as most 964 guys, is the Prototypo Momo. But this came with the RS steering wheel, and I quite like the fact that it's a chunky wheel. It works well.
Do you know what? It works quite well with the door cards, and it's not too aftermarket. I think the Momo Prototypo and stuff like that, and the Mod 7, I think they look great, but they suddenly look a bit more motorsport orientated, I think, with like the steel and the holes.
Correct. Yeah.
Compared to something like this, it looks much more like a road car.
I think you're right. It goes with the car, goes with the interior.
Yeah, really smart. Right. So, for those of you who don't know, Raj owns a company called Car Audio Security, and he specializes in everything car audio security. And so I'm absolutely sure there's a lot of trick stuff in here. So you're gonna have to walk us through this, I think, a little bit. So should we start with, where do we start? Do we start with the head unit?
We'll start with the source unit, the head unit. Okay. And at the moment, that seems to be the go-to head unit, which is the Bremen SQR46 DAB. It's a licensed product, so it's not made by Blaupunkt.
Interesting.
So although it's got the Blaupunkt branding, it's licensed to them. And it's basically a mechless unit, so it has no CD mechanism.
Yeah.
It's half the size of a normal regular head unit. but it gives you all the modern tech with the retro styling of the 90s.
Super cool.
So you've got Bluetooth, you've got Bluetooth streaming, you've got DAB, you've got USB so you can charge your phone, you've got aux input. Everything you need for modern day bar CarPlay, it does it for you. But with CarPlay, you can use your phone anyway, to be fair.
Yeah, of course. That is super cool. Yeah, that's brilliant.
It's not the cheapest stereo on the market. I might get shot down here. I would probably say there are better units out there for half the money, such as the Kenwood units. The quality of the unit is better,
sure,
but it may not fit the look of the car.
I mean, aesthetically, this looks perfect, doesn't it? This period looks brilliant. No, that's super cool. Okay, great. And then in the door cards here, I can certainly see something that doesn't look quite standard.
So stock-wise, all 964s come with 13 centimeter speakers in the door card and a tweeter. Because this had the RS style door cards, somebody had previously put speakers straight into the door card. What we did was just fabricated these rings, and we've gone with a slightly bigger speaker. So that's a 6.5-inch speaker rather than a 5.25-inch 13 centimeter speaker with a separate tweeter.
Nice.
Just to give us a bit more depth in the car. It's not overpowering.
Yeah.
I do enjoy my music.
Yeah.
That's what I do as a living.
Yeah, of course.
And to be able to combine the passion for cars and music for me is like, everyday grin on my face.
No, of course. And I speak about this often. Everyone always says, oh, well, I listen to the sound of the engine. All right, and that's all sad and good when you're having a little spirited drive. But when you're crossing big distances and you are sitting on the motorway, what's it called, between one place and the other, when it's not a spirited drive, quite frankly, a little bit of music, a little bit of Metallica for me, what's it called, is all Led Zeppelin is going to go a long way.
Yeah, maybe our music taste is a little bit different.
I was about to say. So what does a car audio specialist listen to?
Well, me personally, I listen to a lot of R&B. I love Motown, so I love 70s stuff.
Okay.
A lot of R&B, hip hop, and so on. And that's really my go-to. But on the way up here, I was actually listening to a podcast.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Because you're just on the motorway, and I was listening to a podcast, which again, sort of in a classic car is great. On the way up, not worried about the drone of the noise of the exhaust or anything like that. Just listen to the podcast, and here we go. Nice. But yeah, I do like listening to a bit of R&B, and the depth that this car provides in terms of top-end clarity and sort of bottom-end grunt is perfect for me. You can go overkill, and we have customers that want to go overboard. Yeah. But this is perfect for me, and I think for most 964 owners would be ticks the boxes.
Nice. And so tell me, these custom pods that you've made here, is that so that you've got a bit more depth to be able to mount these speakers?
Yes, so basically the 6.5-inch speakers there, the magnets are slightly bigger. So
you need a bit more depth.
You need a bit more depth, otherwise you've got all the metal work behind there as well. So that allows that speaker to fit in and just give me a bit more mid-range, being a slightly bigger speaker. And aesthetically, it looks fine. Black grills, they came with the speakers. No Larry grills here as well.
And so what brand are these?
These are Rockford Fosgate.
And they're good? Yeah.
Very good. So it's an American brand. There's loads of great brands out there. There's some nice European brands, but some of the American brands, such as Rockford Fosgate, JL Audio, are brilliant. Yeah. And in terms of European brands, you've got Audison and Hertz and so on. But so many great brands out there.
Okay. And obviously for people who are looking more for like a very stock look, you've got all sorts of options you can do as well for the stock.
Yeah, so we've done many videos on our own channel which covers stock situations, and it's typically a 13 centimeter component kit, which would go in the original slots.
Cool. We're going to go back to audio in a second, but just while I'm here, and I don't forget, so you're running here, these are 993 RS door handles, and the reason I can see that is because the top part is silver.
Okay.
And so what's called the 964 ones, which don't have the black, which don't have the silver here, are I think something like 2 or 3 times more expensive.
Are they really? Okay.
And so a lot of people go with these, and what they do actually is they flip them round so you can't see the silver, it's on the other side.
It's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
I've done that trick before in a 964 in the past. But yeah, for those who are watching, if you're looking for more, looking to save a little bit of money, go for the 993 RS ones. They're a little bit. The
only drawback is obviously you lose the pocket.
Yeah, true.
A little bit of a drawback, but other than that, I think it sort of looks a lot better, seamless as well.
Okay, amp. I'm guessing there's an amp in here.
There's a very small amp. You won't be able to see it because it's hidden underneath the
seat.
No, it's actually right tucked up underneath there.
Okay, cool.
And
So why tuck it up there and not underneath the seat?
it's a very small amp,
Okay.
very easy to mount underneath. And there's a bass controller as well, because I've got a hidden subwoofer box on the passenger footwell. And that gives me the depth.
Okay.
So if you just pull back the carpet, you'll see a little black box, which is a Rockford Fosgate.
Can I do that?
The other way. So pull it from the top down.
From the top down. Oh, yeah. Do you know what? I would have had no idea that was there.
Yeah, I mean, it takes up about, what, 1.5 to 2 inch of depth. And that's active, so it means that it has an amp built in.
Right, okay.
And that gives me the depth. There's a little bass controller just above it, so I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, yeah, that one there.
Yeah, and that allows me to tweak the bass and just have a little bit more depending on what music you listen to, what genre, or a little bit less.
Yeah, well, for Motown and hip hop, you're
going to need that.
Yeah.
And that gives me the depth in the car that I need. So I've got the top end from the components and the depth from the bass.
I really like that. That's such a subtle install. Okay, you lose a tiny little bit there, but I mean, you know, yeah, it's a good way of doing it. And what's the advantage of doing it there as opposed to putting it underneath the seat?
The problem with some of these seats is you can't, because under one of the seats, I think it's the driver's seat, you've got all the passengers, you've got all the electronics.
Yeah, you've got the ECU as
Correct.
well. Yeah.
And it means that you sometimes then have to go into the back of the rear section where, if you have got children, they're going to be sitting or standing on your little sub box.
So that's really interesting. So I was about to move to the rear speakers. So normally they're in the parcel shelf and some square ones.
Yep.
But I see here you've got some different ones. So talk me through that.
So again, previous owner decided to put speakers in the rear quarter panels, which is not something I would recommend. The rear speakers on the rear deck do the job perfectly. They're little 4x6s. So rather than leaving nasty holes or trying to find door cards that match in terms of colour, I've left them there. They're Kenwoods, they do the job. It just gives it a bit of rear feel, and that's what they're there for, just a bit of rear feel.
Yeah. And I see there are tweeters there as well.
Again, bit of rear feel, bit of overkill, I think, to be fair.
Yeah.
The rear speakers on the shelf do the job pretty good.
Do you know what, just going off subject, off topic just slightly, Tom, just come and have a look at this. What I love about Porsche is that you get all these different coloured interiors, you know, and they still manufacture custom plastics to fit with the interior. So for example here, this is a plastic part, this isn't a leather covered part. And they could have just gone with the black one, you know, what's called, to save themselves some money, but they didn't. It's the same colour as the rest of the seat. Anyway, I just think that's a really nice detail. You know, it's such a expense to go through for a manufacturer to manufacture plastic parts in several different colours just to match. Especially when you think in other places they haven't done
Sure,
that.
yeah.
Super cool. Well, Raj, what a beautiful car. You know,
thank you.
Again, it's a real credit to you. A lot of energy, a lot of time has gone into it, and God forbid, no, not God forbid, well, when the day happens, so you do find that 3.6 to replace this car, it's going to be quite an emotional goodbye, I would guess.
It would be.
It's quite the journey.
Yeah, if that day comes, then happy days, as they say. If it doesn't, I'll continue enjoying this car, and that's, for me, that's the most important thing. Yes, there are some cars that in my own personal fleet I would class as trailer queens, and I'll be the first to say that. But this is not what I wanted with this car. I wanted to use it, drive it hard, and that's what I do, and I enjoy it. And that's what, there's no point having this car and not driving it hard, because then you might just get a standard 964 3.6, because the turbo kicks in at 3,500, and that's where, you know, the drama kicks in. So that's where all the theatre is. So for me, it's about just enjoying this car and maybe bringing back that smile that I had when I was in my mid-20s when I first saw Bad Boys.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's gorgeous, and thank you for taking the time to come up and see me. I know it's a little bit of a way away for you,
right.
So I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing it for many years to come, which I'm sure I will.
Thank you.
Cheers, dude.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Pleasure.